Hello again. I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened. If you were watching and you got disconnected, I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know. All right. So today on our Facebook Live, I'm covering some special areas that I don't normally talk about. One is doing hard things related to diet. Another is special ed students and a great movie connected to them. And number three is boundaries book. Getting back to the boundaries book. And chapter 5 review. So chapter 5 is all about the law of boundaries, and there are 10 laws of boundaries outlined in this book, and we'll just be going quickly through those. So first I want to talk about a change in diet. Literally like 2 hours ago, I was in tears. I was in tears because I was having a low blood sugar crash. I don't know if this happens to you, but I have a super sensitive system, and so today is day 3 of trying to do no flour, no sugar, nothing except protein. And today was really hard. Today has been an all beef day and nothing but beef and sparkling water. I do allow myself some coffee, but my body is going through withdrawals and it sucks. Oh my gosh, it's so awful. So if you're going through withdrawals on a diet right now, I just want to encourage you to not give up on that diet. Like if you have a goal in mind that you're trying to reach for health and wellness, then by all means, no, number one, you're not alone. And number two, yes, it's really hard. And getting off sugar and carbs is the worst. Well, it is for me anyway. So you're not alone in that. So I just wanted to say that. Number 2 is special ed students. So maybe you're wondering, like, what does boundaries have to do with the greater picture of life, and like how can it apply to different things? One thing that is really cool about boundaries is if you're thinking in terms of how can somebody move forward in their life? It's really hard for somebody to move forward in their life if they don't know what they're responsible for. And that's where the boundaries books come in. And actually, there is an organization in the state of Tennessee that is creating a summer curriculum. And I wonder if this might not be part of it, because they work specifically with special ed students. So this will be a special course offering. So if you know of any special ed students in Tennessee this summer, please let them know that boundaries is a great way to learn some life skills and that they want that in their summer program. That would be wonderful. You let me know if you want me to be connected to your student's school. It's just there's a wonderful company that is just all about seeking the best for special ed students so that when they graduate, they can truly contribute to society. And that's what we want for all of our students. But of course, special ed students fall into a really a difficult demographic. They have more challenges than the rest. Not that any of us don't. Like, that's another thing I'm learning right now is all of us have crazy amounts of challenges, that life does not get easier. Like, even if you achieve the goals you want, then there are other challenges that come up. And so how do we stay focused? How do we keep going with that? And for me, really learning the boundaries material well and learning what the treasures of my soul are. I'm looking around for my clipboard that has my list of boundaries on it. Let me see. I'm just going to pull out my handy workbook. This is where the boundaries really get internalized, is doing the workbook. Okay, and boundaries say the treasures of my soul, and this is what I'd want for special ed students to learn. This is what I'd want for high school students to learn. This is what I want to learn, is like, what am I responsible in my soul for? And what is Jesus going to ask me about? Because he's not going to ask me about what somebody else did or didn't do, but he is going to ask me about these things. I am responsible for my feelings, my attitudes, my beliefs, my behaviors, my choices, my values, my limits, my talents, my thoughts, my desires, and who or what I love and trust. So I'm super excited about this idea of turning this into a curriculum for special ed students, but that is not by any stretch. That's like not in a formal plan yet. But if you know special ed students and you think they would benefit from this, and they're in the state of Tennessee, let me know, because I know a company that can help with that. So that's and there's a movie I wanted to tell you about. And it kind of overlaps with the Star Wars stuff that's coming out, because the star of the movie that is about a Down syndrome person and kind of a lost man It's Shila Buff. Who knew that Shila Buff could make a comeback and make a great movie? He did. It's called The Peanut Butter Falcon. I forget how my family rented it, but we rented it this weekend. And we always have a little trepidation when my husband suggests a movie, because sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not so great. But this one was fantastic. And this was something that your whole family can watch. Of course, always read plugged-in reviews before you watch a movie. But this was a great movie. Highly recommend it. And it has a lost man. He's lost because he's living in grief. And they don't tell the whole story, but it looks like, I don't want to spoil it. But anyway, he's living in grief over a loss. And then he gets connected to this Down syndrome young man who doesn't have a family. And he gets really frustrated with his living situation. And through a number of interesting things, they end up together. So would love for you to see that movie. It's called The Peanut Butter Falcon. Okay, and the reason that connects with stuff happening today is because Shila Buff stars in The Peanut Butter Falcon. And of course, if you're a Star Wars fan, then you know that Shila Buff was in Star Wars. And that's the extent of my knowledge on Shila Buff in Star Wars. I am so ignorant about Star Wars. You can go ahead and beat me up about this, because I have no knowledge of Star Wars. It's so terrible. It's just like my son's favorite movie, like right up there with another one, Harry Potter, which I'm like, oh gosh, I fall asleep every time I watch Harry Potter. Isn't that terrible? Don't hate me for that. I'm trying to change my ways. So anyway, so the latest thing that I'm hearing about related to Shila Buff really is it's about this new Star Wars that's coming out. And my understanding is that it's 10 days away from opening, and they're having to pull in George Lucas to rewrite the ending, which is crazy. Like, or I guess they already did. They already pulled him in. And apparently there's like 3 different versions of the movie, and they're trying to get it all ready for the release in 10 days. That just sounds insane to me. And my son was saying that it may be moved till May. So maybe that's when they're going to do it. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you have more information, let me know. The reason that matters on such a grand scale is my son was telling me that Star Wars is like, they talk about it being like one of the most influential things in the last 100 years, one of the most influential stories. And it would be really funny to like compare what happens in Star Wars with Boundaries and like see where the boundary violations were and stuff like that. That might be a fun comparison to do. But yeah, so they put all the Star Wars, the government put all the Star Wars films in a time capsule in Washington, D.C. to like represent our nation. So it's a really big deal. And so I don't know if we can like pray for movie theaters, or not movie theaters, but the people who make the movies, Disney. I'm sure they're going nuts right now trying to not screw up the Star Wars movie, because if you saw the last one, you know how that went. So, okay, so enough about Star Wars. But that goes back to kind of the heart of things, right? Like, I love education and homeschooling. I'm a huge proponent of being a lifelong learner. And one of the things that made George Lucas great, like my boys have read and watched tons of George Lucas interviews and articles. And he has like this incredible library, and he's always been a reader. And so that's part of why he can write these epic stories. And he just cracks me up. I love George Lucas interviews. If you've seen the one from 60 Minutes, it's hysterical. He's like, I'm not really a big deal, and the guy across from him is like, oh, but you've won all these awards. And he's like, actually, no, I haven't. It's funny. It's a funny interview because George Lucas is such an icon. And yet when you meet him, he's just, I don't know. He's just funny. Just Google George Lucas. He's hysterical. Okay. Enough about that. All right. Boundaries chapter 5. And maybe this is where I lose my audience. I notice that I have some people watching right now. So Boundaries chapter 5. So we're just going to do quotes. I'm not reading today. And the big thing for that is just sometimes things stick so much better when we review them. And I already read chapter 5. It's on my YouTube channel right now. And I think I linked to it yesterday. I'm not sure. But I'll link to it today. So if you want chapter 5 in its entirety, that's on my YouTube channel already. And I'll just read some little quotes. Okay, so this is from page 89 under the 10 laws of boundaries, the law of responsibility. A strong strand throughout the Bible stresses that you are to give to needs and put limits on sin. Give to needs and put limits on sin. Boundaries help you do just that. That is so good. If you've ever struggled with like whether or not to give to a homeless person or whether or not to give to a family member, like there you go. You give to needs and you put limits on sin. So if somebody's like being irresponsible over and over and over and over and over again, you don't want to contribute to their irresponsibility. That's limiting them. But if they have a genuine need, then that's definitely helping them. So that's awesome. I know all my friends are amazing, amazing givers. Okay, so page 92 says, when we accept others' freedom, we don't get angry, feel guilty, or withdraw our love when they set boundaries with us. We accept others' freedom and we feel better about our own. That's from the law of respect also. When we accept others' freedom, we don't get angry, feel guilty, withdraw our love when they set boundaries with us. When we accept others' freedoms, we feel better about our own. I love that. Another way to say that is like, I love other people's no's. Like if somebody says, I'm so sorry, but I can't do that. I'm learning to say like, I love your no. I respect your no. Like I don't have to actually say that out loud, but just coming from a place of like, I understand that if I want you to respect my no and not withhold love from me when I say no to you, then I need to treat you that way as well. And sometimes I have to say it to myself. It's really funny because just a little transparency here. Over the last couple of days, my husband and I have had a lot of friction. And I think a big part of it is just I'm reviewing all this boundary stuff. And so I'm getting more clear on what I want and what I need and what I'm thinking about. And then he's hearing me do these lives. He's not here right now, but he's here he hears my videos, he watches my videos, whatever. So he's getting this content too. And I think it's the first time that he's hearing it. Like he hasn't read the books yet. So it's bringing up some conflict between us. And I'm actually really excited about this because if I want him to love my no, when I say no to him and not withdraw or, that's kind of his go-to, then I need to do the same thing for him. And so he's saying no about some things. And so we're having to work it through. And then my goal for our conversations, and this is where you can apply this to yours too, is that both people feel loved, both people feel heard. So like, I'm trying so hard. I love this so much because I feel like I've never really seen this done well. I've never really seen conflict negotiated well. And so to like have these tools and be able to say like, okay, I know that we're talking through some pretty hard stuff right now, but here's what I hear you saying. And is that correct? Is that what you're saying? And going back and forth like that just kind of slows down the conversation so it doesn't get, upset or whatever. And so it's okay to take a break too. It's okay to say, I can't really do this conversation right now. I need to take a break. But then to always think about like, how do I want this to end? I want this to end with my husband feeling great. I want him to feel heard and loved. And also I need to feel heard and loved too. So it's just so cool. Like the boundaries are so life-giving in so many ways. And so I'm just really excited about that. Okay, more quotes from Boundaries Chapter 5. There's a whole lot under the law of motivation. If you want to read more about that, you certainly may. Page 92 is where that begins. The law of motivation says this: freedom first and service second. If you serve to get free of your fear, as in your fear of loss of love, your fear of somebody else's anger, your fear of loneliness, or your fear of losing being perceived as a good person, then you are doomed to failure. Let God work on those fears and resolve them and create some healthy boundaries to guard the freedom you are called into. So in Christianity, we are called into freedom, and this freedom results in gratitude, an overflowing heart, and love for others. To give bountifully has a great reward. It is truly more blessed to give than receive. And if your giving is not leading to cheer, then you need to examine the law of motivation. That's a good one. That's from page 94. All right, page 95, under the law of evaluation, says this. Things can hurt us and not harm us. In fact, they can even be good for us. And things that feel good can be very harmful to us. That's no good at all. So you need to evaluate the effects of setting boundaries and be responsible to the other person. But this does not mean you should avoid setting boundaries because someone responds with hurt or anger. All right. Only the honest, purposeful life leads to good fruit. Deciding to set boundaries is difficult because it requires decision-making and confrontation, which in turn may cause pain to someone you love. Oh, that's so hard. Oh. Okay, and then another part, a loving response to a story in this. Okay, so a loving response to a lady's mother's hurt would be, "Oh, Mom, I'm sad that we won't be together too. I'm looking forward to seeing you next summer's visit." So this is a whole example of, oh, you guys, I don't know if you've ever had this. I'm going to read this to you because it's just so good. Okay. When we need to evaluate the pain caused by our making choices and empathize with it. Take Sandy, for example. Sandy chose to go skiing with friends instead of going home for Christmas vacation. Her mother was sad and disappointed, but she was not harmed. Sandy's decision caused sadness, but her mother's sadness should not cause Sandy to change her mind. A loving response to her mother's hurt would be, "Oh, Mom, I'm sad that we won't be together too. I'm looking forward to seeing you next summer's visit, when we visit next summer." If Sandy's mother respected her freedom to make choices, she would say something like this. "I'm so disappointed that you're not coming home for Christmas, but I hope you all have a great time." She would be owning her disappointment and respecting Sandy's choice to spend her time with friends. Isn't that great? That's amazing. Like, can you imagine if somebody was, maybe y'all live in great families where everybody talks like that. Not me. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying so hard. And actually, we're doing a great job. My mom and I are we are just setting new paths, like at a record-setting pace. It's just amazing. I just am so thankful for the freedom that this book has given us to love well. That's the whole point of boundaries, is loving well. All right, let's see, some other quotes. There's so much more. That was page 96. Page 99, law number 8, is the law of envy. Oh, this was a real game changer for me because I didn't even realize that I was looking at other people's lives and like comparing. And I'm just very grateful that I've been set free from that. Oh, it's so good. So this is what it says. If we are focusing on what others have or have accomplished, we are neglecting our responsibilities and will ultimately have an empty heart. Oh my goodness, isn't that terrible? If we are focusing on what others have or have accomplished, we are neglecting our responsibilities and will ultimately have an empty heart. So get busy owning your desires, your wants, your limits, your talents, your skills, and you will have a much more full heart. And that's from Galatians 6:4. Each one should test their own actions. Then they should take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. That's so good. All right. Look at all this orange on my page. The law of exposure, which is really the law of communication. Okay, this is what it says. A boundary is a property line. It defines where you begin and end. We have been discussing why you need such a line. One reason stands above all the others. You do not exist in a vacuum. You exist in relation to God and others. Your boundaries define you in relation to others. The whole concept of boundaries has to do with the fact that we exist in relationship. Therefore, boundaries are really about relationship and finally about love. That's why the law of exposure is so important. The law of exposure says that your boundaries need to be made visible to others and communicated to them in relationship. Oh, this is so hard. Oh my goodness. We are beset by fears of guilt, not being liked, loss of love, loss of connection, loss of approval, receiving anger, being known, and so on. These are all failures in love. And God's plan is that we learn how to love. These relational problems can only be solved in relationships, for that is the context of the problems themselves and the context of spiritual existence. Ooh, it's so good. Because of these fears, we try to have secret boundaries. We withdraw passively and quietly instead of communicating an honest no to someone we love. We secretly resent instead of telling someone that we are angry about how they have hurt us. Often we will privately endure the pain of someone's irresponsibility instead of telling them how their behavior affects us and other loved ones, information that would be helpful to their souls. Going to the bottom of page 103, the Bible speaks to this issue in many places. Listen to the words of Paul. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Quote, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. End quote. The Bible mandate is to be honest and to be in the light. And listen further. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. That is why it is said, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Ephesians 5:13 through 14. God wants real relationship with us and wants us to have real relationship with each other. Real relationship means that I am in the light with my boundaries and other aspects of myself that are difficult to communicate. Our boundaries are affected by sin. They miss the mark and need to be brought into the light for God to heal them and for others to benefit from them. This is the path to real love. Communicate your boundaries openly. Whew, so hard. So if that discourages you, there's actually a little bit more here at the bottom of page 104 that's very encouraging. Remember the story of the alien? The good news is that when God brings us out from an alien land, he does not leave us untaught. He rescued his people from the Egyptians, but he taught them his principles and ways. These proved to be life to them. But they had to learn them, practice them, and fight many battles to internalize these principles of faith. God has probably led you out of captivity also. Yeah, me too. Whether it was from a dysfunctional family, the world, or your own religious self-righteousness, or the scatteredness of being lost, he has been your redeemer. But what he has secured needs to be possessed. The land to which he has brought you has certain realities and principles. Learn these as set forth in his word, and you'll find his kingdom a wonderful place to live. So I hope you have enjoyed this review of chapter 5 and this video. Again, if you are looking for a coach, I have just 3 spaces left for the month of December. And then January starts up and I have a limited amount of space then too for one-on-one coaching. I'm limiting myself to 6 one-on-one clients. So I have 3 one-on-one clients right now. 3 are thinking about it, but it's a first come, first serve. So I hope that you can think about your goals for this new year, where you would like to grow in your own life, in your own vision for yourself, for your own legacy. I don't know about you, but each year goes faster than the one before it, and I'm just shocked. And so I'm really trying to own my gifts, talents, and abilities by sharing them with you. That's one way that I can leave a legacy, actually. This is the work that God has done in my heart for many, many years now, and that I have been sharing with students, international students over the years, and with my family. And I hope that if you are ready, if you are eager to grow, if you're 100% convinced that now's the time to move forward and make changes to live not only your best life, but to live a life of abundance as Jesus says he offers us, then please send me a Facebook message. I'd love to hear from you. And that's all for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow to continue with the 30 days of Facebook Lives. I did take Sunday off, and Oh, I did post a live actually on Sunday, but pre-recorded. So, actually, no, that was live. Saturday was pre-recorded. Okay. Anyway, more on rest and Sabbath at another time. Have a great night. Bye-bye.